A chill wind whipped across the dusty, forgotten outskirts of the town, carrying with it the faint, sickly sweet scent of decay. In a rickety, abandoned wagon, 3 children huddled together, thin blankets pulled tight around their small bodies. There was Anna, about 10, her eyes wide with a fear too old for her years. Her brother, Sam, 8, held their youngest sister, Lily, a mere 4, whose persistent cough echoed hollowly in the silence. Their parents, travelers who had fallen ill and died in a ditch a week ago, had been quickly buried by the townsfolk, who then declared the children unlucky and a burden, leaving them with a few stale crusts and a stern warning to move on. They were thrown away like nothing. Days bled into a desperate blur. Hunger gnawed at their insides, and Lily's cough worsened, rattling her tiny frame. Anna tried to be strong, tried to find food, but every door she approached was slammed shut, every face turned away. The town had no room for unfortunates, no compassion for those deemed cursed. Across the distant plains, a solitary rider moved, his silhouette a stark, weary figure against the vast sky. This was Jake. His hat was pulled low, shadowing eyes that held the ghosts of too many battles, too many losses. A bullet wound to his hip, poorly healed, gave his stride a perpetual limp, a constant reminder of the fight he'd lost, the life he'd left behind. He was a broken cowboy, carrying his past like a heavy saddle. He rode through the edges of towns, never stopping, never connecting, just passing through, a shadow among shadows. But something about this town, this cold indifference, snagged at him. He saw the children, tiny figures near the derelict wagon, too still, too quiet. He heard the whispers about them, the fear in the townsfolk's voices. He kept his distance, as always, but his gaze returned to them, drawn by a raw, familiar pain. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and orange, Jake watched from a ridge as Anna tried to light a fire with damp wood, her small hands clumsy with cold. Sam coughed, holding Lily tighter, the little girl barely stirring. Something inside Jake, a buried spark, flickered. He rode down, slowly, deliberately. Anna saw him first, her eyes widening, not with fear, but a flicker of something she couldn't name. He stopped his horse a few yards away, dismounted with a wince, and walked towards them. He didn't speak. He simply knelt beside the wagon, pulled a small bedroll from his saddlebag, unrolled it. Then, from another bag, he produced dried jerky, hardtack, and a small worn canteen. He laid them out, not looking directly at the children, but towards the fire. Sam, tentative, reached for a piece of jerky. Anna hesitated, then took the canteen, offering it to Lily, who took a weak sip. Jake watched them, his face unreadable. He began to gather dry tinder, building a small, quick fire, its flames dancing in the gathering dusk. The warmth was instant, a small miracle. For the next few days, Jake became their silent guardian. He never stayed with them, always setting up his camp a discreet distance away, but every morning, fresh water and food would appear near their wagon. He mended a broken wheel, patched holes in their tattered canvas. He taught Anna how to gather edible roots, how to start a fire even with damp wood. He taught Sam how to whittle, carving a small, smooth horse from a piece of wood. He never spoke much, just quiet commands, gruff encouragement, but his presence was a constant, steady anchor in their storm. Lily slowly began to recover, her cough lessening, her eyes gaining back some of their sparkle. She would watch Jake with an innocent curiosity, occasionally offering him a shy smile. Jake, for his part, found himself drawn to her, the tiny girl who reminded him of an innocence he thought long lost. One afternoon, a couple of young, rough-looking drifters rode up to the wagon, their eyes glinting with malice. They saw the children, alone and vulnerable. "Well, well," one sneered, dismounting. "Look what we have here! Fresh pickings!" Anna pushed Sam and Lily behind her, her small body trembling but defiant. Just as the drifter reached for her, a figure emerged from the sparse trees, silent as a ghost. Jake. His rifle was in his hand, pointed directly at the drifter's chest. "Move on," Jake said, his voice low and gravelly, laced with an undeniable threat. The drifters hesitated, then scoffed. "You alone, old man? We'll take care of you easy." Jake didn't answer. He simply cocked his rifle. The click echoed loudly in the sudden silence. The drifters saw something in his eyes then, something cold and ancient, a flicker of the man he once was, a man who knew how to kill and had nothing left to lose. They backed away slowly, climbed back on their horses, and rode off without another word. Jake didn't look at the children. He just stood there, watching the dust of the departing riders, his hip aching. Anna, tears streaming down her face, rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his legs. Sam and Lily followed, clinging to him. He stiffened, unused to human touch. But slowly, awkwardly, his calloused hand came up to rest on Anna's head. The next morning, Jake led the wagon into town. The townsfolk, peering from behind curtains and closed doors, saw the change. The children were still thin, but they were cleaner, their eyes brighter. A spark of life returned. And beside them, the broken cowboy, walking with them, not leading them, but with them. He didn't speak to the town. He just walked to the general store, went inside, and emerged with new clothes, proper food, and a small, brightly colored ribbon for Lily's hair. He bought tools, lumber. He didn't ask for permission. He just began to work on their abandoned shack, hammering, sawing, rebuilding. The town watched. They saw the change in the children, the life that had returned to their eyes. They saw Jake, the lonely, broken man, working tirelessly, silently, without asking for anything in return. They saw how he looked at the children, not with pity, but with a quiet, fierce protectiveness. Slowly, hesitantly, the townsfolk began to emerge. Mrs. Gable brought a fresh baked pie. Mr. Peterson, the carpenter, offered to help with the roof. The curse, they realized, was not on the children, but in their own hearts, their own abandonment. Jake didn't talk about his past, didn't explain his choices. He didn't need to. He simply stayed, his silence filled with a purpose that transcended words. He gave those children a home, food, safety. He gave them hope. He, the broken cowboy, had risked everything, his solitude, his very life, to save those who were thrown away like nothing, giving them not just a new life, but teaching the whole town the true meaning of compassion. And in doing so, he began, slowly, to heal himself too.